understood where I'm coming from. I've trained more than 10,000 businesses on how to market to the federal government, assisted small businesses to win over $200 million in contracts across various industries. I previously owned a business that was in the 8A program and won $15 million in contracts. Had a bad business partner that took the business down, and that really pushed me to my new passion. And that's what made me apply for a position at SBA. For 7 years, I served as a business opportunity specialist. My job was to service the businesses based on once they applied into the program. I had over 90 firms in my portfolio, and for me, that really gave me another insight on studying those businesses that I was servicing and seeing how they were succeeding in this program. The other catch was, as part of my job at SBA, they required that we become certified as a contract specialist. And for me, that was the missing piece, meaning I'd run a business, I understood SBA's rules and regulations, but I wasn't quite sure what steps the agencies took to actually put that solicitation out on the street for you to bid. I was also a score counselor, which was a resource partner of SBA. So what I have found as it relates to businesses getting into the space, most of the time the challenges come in, especially as I was working at SBA, is that they'll come to SBA, we'll give them great information, they leave, they're pumped up, but not quite sure what to do with that information or how to connect the dots. And that was similar with the government agency. No one really understood SBA's rules and regulations, and SBA plays a key factor in this equation. Some of the challenges that I've found consistently with businesses trying to get into this space is trying to understand the government language, trying to understand their processes. They'll tell you to go get a certification, but you're not quite sure what to do with that certification or what information is going to be required to get that certification. None of the government websites are connected because each agency do not talk to each other. So for me, what I ended up doing is leaving SBA in 2015 because I realized no one was connecting the dots, especially within my community. And I created a program based on lessons learned in my first business. And the first thing that I learned was not to limit your business. Most people will start their business on their skill set. In that first business, my first year in business, I received my first $1 million contract. I was an event planning company. My mentor pulled me aside and asked me why was I pigeonholing myself. And when he said that, it made sense because my first job was with an 8A company in DC, and I attached myself to one contract that went through 6 companies. And when I look back at the companies that were successful, it was not based on their skill set. And after receiving that first $1 million contract, I wasn't doing event planning anyway. So I had to change my business model so it wasn't based on my skill set. In this space, you do not have to know anything about that contract to win that contract. So in my program, in the first module, we train you how to shift your mindset to managing the business as opposed to working in the business. When I diversified and expanded my business model, instead of selling and marketing my company as an event planning, I changed it to a management consulting firm, and I created divisions. I had an event planning division, I had an IT division, I had a database division, I had a publication division. Once I expanded those areas of services and understanding I could bring people on to hire, I started winning contracts in those areas. The second thing is understanding these contracts and these certifications and these programs are designed for collaboration, meaning you cannot do this by yourself. In my second module, we teach you how to collaborate. We're better we're more powerful with the numbers than trying to do it by ourselves. The third thing to understand, you must have the infrastructure in place, meaning you need to have an accountant, you need to have HR, you need to understand that you need to have the infrastructure to support these contracts. What ended up happening in that first business as we grew, I started out and we were getting all of these contracts very quickly. I had almost 40 employees, and I had a partner who felt like he could run all his personal expenses through the business. The last straw for me was a $3,000 custom-made pinstripe suit with his initials going down the pinstripe. I ended up having his credit card audited. He ended up threatening the employee. I terminated him. He conspired with 2 employees to sue me and the other partner for sexual harassment. After 2 years of attorney fees, $125,000 of attorney fees, $100,000 to buy him out, I didn't have any more operating cash, and I ended up transferring $7 million of contracts to another 8A firm. So anyone that's currently has a business and you have employees, I would highly recommend that you make sure you have employment practice liability insurance. That's EPLI. That's insurance that's outside of your general business liability insurance. Had I had that insurance, that would have covered any settlement that I had to have with the employee and the business partnership relationship. So when you look at the federal government operates on a fiscal year. Its fiscal year begins October 1st and it goes through September 30th. So right now we're in the last quarter of the government's fiscal year. What happens between the budget being passed and you getting involved, the government will operate on what they call a continuing resolution, meaning the agencies have not been fully funded. So for you as a small business, there's a peak time and a downtime for you to market to the agencies. The peak time will begin between October through February and March because the agencies have not received their funding. Come March, April, and the closer you get to September, no one's really trying to talk to you because they're trying to get rid of the money. So you have to strategically position your business to be able to market to these agencies before the peak time comes and you're positioning yourself to win these contracts. Every year, the federal government awards contracts or have set-aside goals. 23% of contracts are set aside for small businesses. 5% are set aside for women-owned businesses. 5% are set aside for small disadvantaged businesses or the 8A participants. 3% for service disabled, veteran-owned, and 3% for hub zone. So over here, SBA keeps a scorecard on how the agencies as a whole have met their goals. So you can see over here, there's a lot of money that's being set aside for these set aside programs. And the ones that have met their goals or did not meet their goals as a whole. So if you look at the Hub Zone program, most agencies did not meet their goals, although there's still a lot of money in each of these categories. So for you, the advantage of playing in this space is the more certifications you have, the more you're helping that agency win their goals. So let's have an example. If you you win a contract from an agency and that contract was $100,000 and you're a small business, that agency now gets $100,000 credit towards their goals. If you're a small business and a woman-owned small business, now that agency gets $200,000 credit towards their goals. So the more certifications you have, the more you're helping that agency achieve their goal. What I tell businesses, and it's a completely opposite of what SBA and even their resource partners will tell you. Most of them will tell you to start locally and then go to the federal government because it's too big up in the federal government. And to me, that did not make sense because the amount of competition is lower up in the government. If you're competing locally, you're competing with everybody else. So this is the database where contracts are posted. And as you can see, the number of opportunities that were posted during this time was 103,000. The government do not have enough small businesses to win these contracts. So they're looking for you because, again, they're driven by their goals. Also, you're not limited to that area. And you can see the types of contracts that the government is offering. I just pulled up a couple of samples. I do not necessarily have to be a priest to win this contract. I can find me a priest and present that priest to the government and win a contract. It's a shift in our mindset. And what I found throughout my training, that's the biggest shift. We're hard workers and but no one is teaching us how to manage a business. This is another example of opportunities that are out here. You can see just because there's a contract in Hawaii does not mean I cannot compete on it. Actually, I had one of my students compete on a contract picking up the laundry off of the Navy ship in Hawaii. That was a 5-year contract. She just found someone in Hawaii that did laundry services, got their quote, put her bid in, marked it up, and won. This is how we expand our services and not limit our businesses. And once I left that DC DMV area, what I realized was people outside of DMV really didn't have a clue on government contracts. And this is just based on the number of businesses that are registered in SBA's program. As you can see, the numbers. And so what I was finding was that a lot of businesses from the DMV area was coming here in Georgia to win contracts. Wherever there's a military base, there's a contract. There's no competition. And I'm going to show you at the end of this presentation, you have the same scenario in Alabama. You have everybody in Alabama, companies from out of state coming in, winning contracts, especially as it relates to this program. And we'll go into depth about these certifications. And what I tell businesses is, if you even look in Mississippi, you're not competing as high. You're not competing with that many people as it relates to these programs and these contracts. Now, in order to participate in this space, you can self-certify in this database. It's called Systems for Awards Management. You can self-certify as a small business, as a veteran-owned, as a service-disabled, and as a small disadvantaged business. Although most agencies do not use this status because once you're in this program, you're automatically classified as a SDB. There are only 3 programs right now that currently requires a formal certification. The 8A Business Development Program, the Hub Zone, and the Woman-Owned Small Business Program. The 8A program, which is a program to my heart, it is based on two areas primarily: whether you're socially and economically disadvantaged. You're in this program for 9 years. It is a business development program. By being in this program, it allows you to go to any federal agency and you can be awarded a contract up to $4 million with no competition. Can I get an amen? A shout? Or do I need to repeat that?
Amen. Just show us how.
No competition. It truly is a business development program. Everyone up in DC understood the game. You're able to go in there, and just because you're in that program and market your service, and if you market, the government can just say, okay, we're going to award you a contract. That's how I was able to grow my business so quickly. The second program is the Hub Zone program. In the Hub Zone program, it's based on where that business is located. As long as your business is located in an area that's been designated as a hub zone and 35% of your employees reside in a hub zone, then you can participate in that program. They don't necessarily have to be in the same location as your business, just as long as they reside in one of those areas. The Hub Zone program was designed to build communities. The 8A is designed to build businesses, minority-owned businesses. The women's program right now, it used to be a self-certification. Now they have placed it effective October 15, where they're going to require a formal certification, meaning you have to go and be approved by SBA in order to win contracts under that program. It must be 51% owned and controlled by a female. For the 8A program, it is based on primarily two areas. The social component consists of these ethnic groups. As long as you're a U.S. citizen and a member of any one of these ethnic groups, you automatically meet the social component of the program. The economic component, which I'm happy they've just increased this threshold, as long as your personal net worth does not exceed $750,000, minus any equity in your home or in your business, you meet the economic component of the program. It used to be $250,000. They just changed that this summer, which now opens up a lot more doors for our communities, because most of our assets is in the real estate, and that tends to knock us out of the ball game trying to qualify into this program, because they're not going to count your primary residence against you, as any other property that you have will be factored into this number. The other component of this is, and this is to my heart too, but if you have a record or you've been on, and you're not on probation or parole, you can start a business and get into this program. You just have to be able to demonstrate that you have a business, and as long as you tell the truth, you can get into this program. And for me, this is a game changer for those who have touched that system unfairly. The Hub Zone applies to purchases that are over $3,000. There's no term limit to this program. What you heard in the 8A program, you're in it for 9 years. And one of the reasons that I left SBA because what I was seeing was those that were getting into the program, they were not receiving their first contract until their fourth or fifth year. I want to make sure that you have the tools and the guns to take advantage of the 9 years in the program, because you only have one time to be in that program. Again, with this program, there's no term limits. You recertify every year. You also get the opportunity of what they call those competitive and sole source contracts, those non-compete contracts. And the government will also do a 10% price evaluation preference if you're a participant in that program. The difference with the sole source and the competitive contracts in this program and the other programs is that in order for the government to award a contract as a sole source in women's, hub zone, service disabled, they have to make sure that there are at least 2 businesses that are qualified to perform on that contract. Whereas in the 8A, they don't have those stipulations because it is a business development program. Your principal office must be in a hub zone, and again, 35% of your employees must live in a hub zone. The women's program, again, is still relatively new, and it came in existence in 2012. They just started the actual formal certification. What I'm doing is encouraging businesses that do qualify as a WOSB to go ahead and start that process now, because they're not going to start formalizing and approving applications until October 15th. And we don't want you to get caught up in the bottleneck. And the other thing that I would like to share is that if you're a couple or you're married, you can circumvent, or maybe that's not the right word, I recommend that couples create 2 entities that are in different industries. By doing that, that's going to be able to allow you to go 18 years in the program. You just spin it off another one. That's the game that they play. But the game that they're playing is that whatever industry you in, that partner cannot be in that same industry, or that cousin, or whoever that family member is, have to be in a different industry. I hope I'm making sense to y'all. The eligibilities are minimum. 51% control, day-to-day operations, long-term decisions, hold the highest office, and work full-time. Full-time can vary. If you're in IT, I can get around saying I'm not there doing from 9 to 5. My job does not, my areas of expertise does not require for me to work normal working hours. There's no minimum amount of time that the business have to be in operation. For the veterans program, again, that's a self-certification. If you're doing business with the VA, you must be formally certified through them at vetbiz.gov. Again, there's no term limits associated in this program, and you too also get the opportunity to have competitive and sole source contracts. All of the programs require subcontracting goals. That's where you all will hear the MBEs. I call them the MBEs, the DBEs, the WBEs. Any large company that receives a contract from the government of $750,000 or more, they have to submit a subcontracting plan on how they're going to achieve their goals with the set-aside programs. If they don't achieve those goals, then they're going to be fined. But to me, it's a little harder with the DBEs, the WBEs, to try to chase that money. Not that I don't want that money, but what I recommend is that you start at the federal and come down, because under the DBEs and the MBE certifications, you're never really allowed to be your own boss. You have to be a subcontractor. Whereas on the federal side, I know where the money is and I'm my own boss. I hope I'm making sense to y'all. I'm going to take you to a couple of websites right now that are key for you understanding this space. Does anybody have any questions thus far? We can open up. I wanted to give you, yes, someone had a question?
Yes, I had a question about what you just said. You said you need to start at the federal and come down.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just expound on that a little bit more?
The federal government specifically, again, have those goals as I stated earlier. They specifically have contracts that are set aside for small businesses. Any contracts that's 250,000 and below have to go through a small business. That's called simplified acquisition. And in that space, you can get 6 or 7 contracts. Now you're managing those contracts and not necessarily a subcontractor for working for someone that you don't know how much money or when you're getting paid. Whereas on the federal side, I'm my own boss. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to show you an example of this young lady. She started with me just before I left SBA. Her background was in real estate. If you're a real estate agent, you cannot participate in the program. They do not allow brokers in the program. So if we have any real estate agents that are online, make sure you look at your tax return and what code they're using to classify your business. That drives your acceptance and what you're going to be doing in the program. So this young lady, she started out real estate. So we ended up revamping her business model so it wasn't based on real estate. We created divisions, as I said I did with my first business, because what I realized, the skill sets that she was doing in the real estate is transferable. You're dealing with a lot of paper. You're dealing with records management, document preparation. Those are things that the government is buying. When you're holding open houses, that's an event planning. So now instead of saying open houses, event planning, and these are the things that we offer under event planning. You do a lot of training. She's dealing with a lot of vendors. If you're dealing with roofers or someone that's coming in to clean up that house, that's janitorial services. These are all services that the government is buying. So you're going to, instead of you looking at those janitors for that place and screening them out, you're doing the same thing on the government, but you're just getting their costs and putting your costs on top of it and winning. Every business needs to have IT. IT is never going away, so might as well sell it. So she still have a core area that she's stuck with. This young man is another one of my success story. Again, everybody creates these boxes, and that's what we train in that first module. How do you create these divisions? Because it's all perception. You will never know what size company this is. So he's created these areas. He's won a lot of contracts providing doctors on these military bases. He is not a physician. Only thing he's doing is staffing those companies. The other component I wanted to share with you guys is this website. Let me go back. USA Spending. This is let me do it another way. This is the website where all contracts are, when they are awarded, is posted. You can go in here and see by agency what agencies are winning contracts. Who's actually awarding contracts in my state? Here, if I wanted to narrow it down and try to look at what vendors were actually playing and winning contracts in my space, I can do an advanced search. And based on that advanced search, I can filter it by the last 2 fiscal years, location, type of set aside right here. And this is what we train in the program. You see this spot up here where it says 8A sole source? These contracts right here will never ever be advertised on that beta.sam, the public database. There's no need. So right here is where the gold is. So we teach you how to find the gold and utilize the gold. So I went ahead and created a filter based on just so that I could get a general idea of who's actually winning contracts in your state under these programs and how many contracts are being awarded. And as you can see, these are the companies, these are the dollar values over here. I went ahead and downloaded this information. That's why I love this database. It's very user-friendly. And you can create an Excel spreadsheet. So in this Excel spreadsheet, based on that report I downloaded, it's showing me what 8A companies are winning contracts in your state and where they're from. Do you see any from Alabama? That's telling me a story, right? Look at it. Which is interesting. So what that's telling me, again, nobody is training these businesses in the area to win contracts. So it's also showing me what agencies. As I said, I started out, these are the agencies that have awarded contracts. So you talk about these other ones, it's showing you what agencies are awarding contracts in this program. Anybody have any questions? Okay, let me show you, I wanted to show you what we've created in our community. I left SBA in 2015, and since 2015, we've had almost 1,000 people go through this program. And what I wanted to create was a community across the board, because as I stated earlier in the slide, it was about people understanding the same language. So everyone that's gone through this program, they know that you have other peers within this community that you can reach out to for teaming opportunities. Just because I'm in Georgia, I can now reach out to someone in California. Now we're all speaking the same language. I also wanted to take you to one more website before I forget this. It's FPDS. FPDS is the actual website that feeds into that USA spending, but it's going away. But I wanted to show you one of my students who, she started in October. She completed the program in May, and by September, she won 6 contracts, so that you can visually see that she's not pigeonholing herself. This is the one that was for housekeeping. This one, she was delivering porta potties. This one right here, the government needed a 2-day event. She found the hotel. The hotel's cost was $48,000. She put her bid in at $104,000. She won. This is also another example of showing you, if we go a little deeper, she was the only one competing on that contract. It's no competition. And again, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself in this space. This one right here was, let me see, another one. And she just also won a landscaping contract. And she said the conference ended in September 27th. She submitted her invoice September 28th. She was paid October 8th. She made a $60,000 profit off of that contract. Now that's how we begin to create our own access to capital. This one right here, I believe it was for another facility that she found. Here, it was only 2 offers. So we have to begin to understand the game. Over here is the COVID. So it dictates COVID. Who's awarding contracts during this time? Understand the players. Going back to this site again, award. Right here, you can see what agency is awarding contracts. As I stated earlier, let's go back. I want to see by state the amount of dollars for the last year that's been awarded in your state. And then it's going to show you and break it down where the money's going. We're not in this game. What agencies are awarding these contracts? Understand the data. All right. Anybody have any questions before I go into my actual program and what it looks like?
Hello, I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have been in the 8A program for about 5 years now, and I have been working outside of my primary NATS code because of doing some of just what you were talking about doing, and want to kind of get back on track. So do you think doing what you're saying here now, because I have had success at using all of these sites, and probably not to the extent that I could have, but it has been, it's been interesting. But it appears too that once you start working in an area and do well, then you kind of get pigeonholed in there. And, you know, the contracts, like you said, they just come in. People know you, the contract officers know you, and that kind of a thing. So how do you teach your people how to get out of that and kind of get back on what they really are interested in?
Well, just expanding the business model and reshaping it, and then you market it to your current clients, and letting them know that you've expanded your areas and you have this level of expertise that are now on your team. They are contingency hires. Does that make sense?
It does, but sometimes they want to see that person already committed, like on your staff, and sometimes they ask for payroll and all that kind of stuff.
Not, yeah, that's when you're actually submitting a bid, but for marketing purposes, I'm just marketing.
Yeah, but you know, when the past performance comes up, you know, how do you?
The past performance is based on those individuals' work history.
Okay.
Those are contingency hires, and there are clauses, FAR clauses in their federal acquisition regulations that dictates how they can award. For instance, the real estate company. Let me show you. Her very first contract was a 8A sole source with CDC. And it was testing labs in the labs the monkeys in the lab with HIV.
Right,
Only thing she did was pick up the same people that's been on that contract.
right.
That's the game. Now she has research experience under her umbrella.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, ma'am. I got you.
And for you that's in the 8A program, if you're currently in there, you need to understand your business plan is what drives that contract. You can add NAICS codes. That's going to be your driving force for those 9 years. The other thing that is that everyone needs to look at, and that's what I'm positioning people with my training program, is that all small mentor protege program. The all small mentor protege program allows a large business to come in and mentor you. And for you as a small business, that's the juice that you need. I helped a company last year get into the mentor protege program with a firm out of DC who had been on a contract for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They created the joint venture. He won his first contract for $53 million in that joint venture.
Right.
The mentor protege program used to only be a benefit for the 8A program. They now have opened it up for everyone, which means you don't have that kind of leverage, but you do, because 8A is protected. And a lot of small business will say, well, what can I bring to the table? Or why would a large business want to mentor me? And I go back to this dollars line right here, the amount of dollars. These are dollars they can't access. They can't access this 5160 billion. So it's creating a strategy. I'm all about strategy. And so everyone that has participated in my program pretty much says it's pretty intense. It's on a master's level, but you need to be committed because I'm taking you, we hand walking you through the whole process. By the time you're through, you're going to have a strategic marketing plan. A lot of businesses, and I've broken it down into 3 modules. The first module is business ready. A lot of businesses will say, well, I've already registered in SAM. I have my LLC. Do I need to start that? Yes, you do, because you're not looking at it from SBA's perspective. I'm looking at how you are submitting what's in those tax returns. That's where people usually get dinged. Most of the time, people, when they've registered their business in SAM, they haven't completed all of it on SBA side. Or again, they pigeonhole themselves into one specific industry. Also, when you were talking about the 8A company that said, well, I'm pigeonholed into this space, start looking at RFQs. That's now giving you the past performance. Those are the 250,000 and below. That at least now gives you the experience and the past performance within that agency. The second module is about creating your websites, creating a strategic marketing plan, identifying these teaming partners and mentors, utilizing these databases. Understand how we build capacity within the community. And then the last module is geared towards the all small mentor protege program and or the 8A program, helping you to create a business plan that's going to be approved in both of those programs. Because again, I saw what it took on the inside. So I just took everything that I had from my first business, what I learned at SBA, and I created a program that was really, that's been effective. People are applying the process and winning. I realized no one was taking them step by step through this. This is what was missing. So the program is broken down in, as I say, 3 modules. Each module is 8 weeks. Everything is online, everything is recorded, just like we're doing now. You have templates. I took a lot of the templates from my first business and created it for your use, meaning I knew working as a sport counselor and PTAC, they're going to tell you what those programs, they're going to tell you how to put a RFP together, but you don't know what the end result should look like. So I just used a lot of the proposals that I won in that first business, so you wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. You'll know what should be included and what the agencies are looking for in your response. It's broken down into on-demand, self-paced, as well as a live instructor. The on-demand is pre-recorded, but you meet twice a month. The next session is Thursday, October 29th that we're going to start. Again, these are pre-recorded, and you can go back and everything is recorded for you to go back and listen to. I told Jerry, if you get a minimum of 15 people to sign up from the chamber, then we'll create a separate cohort for the members in the chamber. So that, again, you all can start working together and winning contracts right there in your state. The live instructor, those classes will start Monday, October 19th. And Tuesday and Thursday. So we have 2 options. And we've been filling up pretty quickly in these classes. We have a minimum of 20, and in the last couple of sessions, I just had to shut it down because I want you all to get the intimacy of the experience and bonding. And so that even after the class is over with, people are still meeting and supporting each other and going after opportunities. I also offer coaching sessions that includes the training. A lot of people need that extra push, so I do have the one-on-ones as well. And with that said, that concludes my presentation, but I always like to, Jerry, if you don't mind, just get some feedback maybe from a couple of people to see what their takeaways were. Anybody want to volunteer?
Hello, Ms. Watts.
Yes.
Hi. I can say that I have a company. My wife has a company, and her company is a woman-owned minority company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm currently right now in the WBENC process of getting approved for that in the WOSB. And then I have another company with my dad where we're going for the VA certificate. And I can say that those are some tough certs to get. So I am happy that you are here to help with this because I've been struggling to get these. I think now I finally get the WOSB, but after about 100 questions from the W, it's a tough one to get. And then the VA one is even tougher. So I am glad, you're coming at the right time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Also, where I find, especially those I've been working with lately to get approval into the 8A program, please do not have the more names your name is attached to, the more businesses your name is attached to, that becomes the headache because you got to provide the documentation and SBA is going to combine all those businesses together. So my recommendation for everyone is just to have, if you can, one business. Yeah, you can still own a part of some other business, but please don't have 2 businesses that you are 100% on and getting revenue. You're going to get kicked back. I just had a firm that was denied based on that same scenario. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
This is Deborah Thompson. I just want to thank you for
I have a question about the 8. Don't you have business for 2 years?
Pardon?
With the 8,
You were going in and out. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. I think that was Miss Beavers.
Hey, Ms. Watts.
Yes.
Hey, I think the question she was asking, that's the question I was going to ask. That I thought you had to be in business for 2 years to be in the 8A program.
There is a waiver that's under the 2 years if you meet certain qualifications. But again, I don't encourage businesses to get into that 8A. That 8A will be the goal. I want you to work on the outside and use everyone else's 8A certifications before you get in there so that you can take full advantage of the 9 years. As I say, the typical 8A will get their certifications, and by the 4th year is the first time that they receive their first, it's generally when they receive their first contract, and you've lost about 4 years that you can't get back.
Ms. Watts.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, again, that's a very good point because that's really the only reason I got into the 8A program, because I was counseling people and they were talking about they were in the 8A program and they never got a contract. I was like, why would you even do that? You know? So from your perspective, and I'm glad that you were talking from that end, I'm taking a course right now to become a certified federal contract officer through a special national group that I work with. And that, again, takes us back to the FAR where we all started 100 years ago. And learning from the perspective, like you said, of the SBAs, what they're really looking for and what the federal contractors are looking for through GSA and that mechanism. So do you work at all through the GSA and showing them how to get on the schedule and that kind of thing?
Yes, I have a partner, that's his specialty. Okay. And what I will say consistently for people, unless you've worked on the inside of SBA, no one understands their operations.
That's right. That's right.
So I was fortunate to start on the ground and understand their operations. And I studied them for 7 years. I feel like I got a doctor's degree and understood what was missing between the two to come out and create a program that my desire is to create the generational wealth. It's about our future, our children's children. And we got to get in the game. We don't have any money in our community. And, I grew up in DC. It works, but you got to understand how to leverage it. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I believe I got cut off earlier. I was asking a question about the 8E. Now, I know you said that one's the one that's kind of like near and dear to you and has a lot of opportunity. I wanted to know for that one, don't you have had to been in business for 2 years before you can apply for that particular certification?
There is a 2-year waiver. There are certain businesses that they do allow you to apply into before that 2 years. But again, what I do not push people to that program until I feel like they're ready, because I don't want you to waste that valuable time. There is no other program in the United States that's designed to build your business and is going to give you these contracts up to $4 million with no competition. So my goal is to make sure you understand the game before you even begin to apply into it. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Jerry, I think it's 12 o'clock. If no one else has any questions.
Yes.
You
Well,
push
Paula,
this program through the chamber to the Black Chambers of Commerce or African American chambers, or how are you pushing this out?
We are in partnerships with the African American Chamber of Commerce. I'm following his lead.
Is that the National Black or the African American?
That with Jerry.
it's the Alabama State Black Chamber.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, and we still want to thank everybody for taking advantage of this learning opportunity. And again, we're going to be forming a group to work with Paula on getting everybody into the government contracting arena and winning some contracts. But again, I want to ask you, if you have not, please go into chat and leave your contact information, name, company name, email, and phone number so we can follow up with you. And we will actually follow up with every one of you that express an interest individually, so we can form a group that will work together and going through the program together. Because that's,
Jerry,
yes.
this is Rosie Landers. I just want to say this has been very informative. I really enjoyed this session. So thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Well, I'm going to thank the guru herself. So I'll have to give her a big hug. Hey, this is you can have an air hug, Paula.
Well, this is my passion. This is my heart, because in DC, my mentor got into the 8A program, built that business up and sold it for $27 million. That's how we begin to create generational wealth. But our problem is we're not playing in the space because no one is hand-holding and taking us through this process. So the more that I can get in on the Underground Railroad, the better we are.
Okay, well, again, I want to thank everyone. If you have any questions, concerns, etc. for me, please visit our website, leave us a message at www.alblackcc.org. And with that, I'm going to say, again, thank you, everyone. And that ends our session unless we have one last question.
And thank you, Jerry, for giving me this time. I always like to educate. And that's what it's all about. Each one teach one.
Okay. And everybody stay tuned for future webinars that we'll be announcing. We have one coming up in a few weeks on business intelligence. So stay tuned for that. And again, we appreciate everybody, and certainly be praying that everybody stays safe.
Okay. Jerry, I did record this. And so if anybody, I'll send you the recording in case anyone wants to go back and replay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank
vote.
you.
And vote.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.